I want you to see how oneness God has made marriage to be. I'm talking about marriages ordained by the will of God. In Matthew 10, verse 37, he says, anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worth of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worth of me. In other words, Jesus is saying you should love him more than anything else. But in this verse, he never said anyone who loves your husband or your wife more than me is not worth of me, because in marriages you become one flesh. That's why you see sometimes God shows you your future spouse in dreams or visions or through a prophetic word, because God is showing or bringing you into alignment with his will to a specific particular person that he chose and made for you before the foundation of the earth. That's why you can't just choose a spouse, you can't just marry someone, you can't just come together with anyone. And if you decide to marry someone without God, your father's approval, you are destroying God's will for you. And by doing so, you are saying to God, I don't care about God's will, I love myself more than him. Well, some of you will say, well, I didn't know God's will. In Ephesians 5 verse 17 says, therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. By the way, not knowing God's will for you is sin, and you will be punished for it. That's what God said in Luke chapter 12 from verse 47. That servant who knows his master's will and does not get ready or does not do what his master wants will be beaten with many blows. But the one who does not know and does things deserving punishment will be beaten with few blows. So don't ever think that not knowing God's will, you are on a safe side. Never. Some of you, God has shown you your future spouse that you should marry, but you refused God's will for you because you have certain standards for yourselves that is against God's will. Well, many may plan, but it is God's plan that prevails. Normalize to ask God's opinion before you can take any decision in your life. When you get married, you become one flesh with your spouse. There are ministries in marriages, there are companies in marriages, there are purposes in God ordained marriages, there are businesses in marriages. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. But never marriages. What God has joined together, no one can separate. Marriages represent him and his church. Marrying the person God wants you to marry is obeying God, is fulfilling God's will, is to show him your love for him more than anything. The devil tried to destroy marriages ordained by God because they carry the will of God, they carry the glory of God. In other words, he is trying to destroy the will of God and the purpose of God that marriage carries and favor that is in it. We see that with Job's story. Satan tried to kill Job's marriage, but to no avail because he killed everything he had. But ordained marriages will stand the test of times because God is in it, and because it is God's will. God's will always prevail, because destroying God's marriage is like destroying God and his church. It can't, because those two are inseparable. One of you must be mature, one of you must have forgiveness spirit, so the marriage can go on just like what God does to his church. One of you must have discernment spirit to know if it is your wife or husband speaking right now, or the devil is swindled in, just like what Job did. Job and his wife are one flesh. They can't be separated, otherwise there won't be restoration. Job's marriage really did stand the test of times and overcame, and God restored them.